I don't know how to live stream.
Sure, I could teach you.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
You have to have like an upgraded Zoom to do that.
Maybe.
I got the basic package, so I might not have that option. You might be a little too fancy for me. That might be what it is, because I don't think I even have that option.
You see, we already live. We live, and this is how Dr. Rema and
I gotta get bougier on Zoom. I don't know how to. You have to show me how to live later on.
I mean, I'm sure all the people that follow you will love to see more of you, right? And so, absolutely.
Yeah. I think I need to upgrade my Zoom. So that means I have to charge more, actually.
That is awesome.
Yeah, that's what I need to do. That's what I need
it's
to do.
A business expense, right? So like, I mean, let's just be real. It's all tax deductible. Like it's not that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm making all this money. It's like, no, like it costs money to host these lives and have it so everybody has access, right? And quality work, right? And so that is a business expense for my company. Yeah.
You're looking out.
It's all tax deductible.
Yeah, I'm getting my life together. Get my life together.
I am always here to help educators understand the business side of this thing, right? That is, I think, a personal mission of mine. And so, but this is not about me, right?
But that's actually the advice I need. So we'll have to talk offline about it, because out here limping, man. Well, educators don't get business acumen through any venue, right? They don't show you how to be tax-free. They don't show you how to get your whole LLC life together. There's no manual. You kind of have to know that by relationship. So knowing people like you who are on top of their game, that's going to help people like me who are not, who can barely add. So I majored in English on purpose.
And I didn't. And so trust me when I tell you, there is a lot that I can learn from folks like you who, in a lot of ways, I'm still becoming in the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion, whereas I look up to folks like you who have made so many waves, right? Have birthed so many scholars, have a trail of your work really behind you. And I know that's something that I don't know if I aspire to fully have like that, right? My work is on YouTube. My work is on, that is one of my good friends. He talks about having scholarship of, Wilson Okello, heard that from him. And that's what I hope that my work is. It's the consequences that I have to be sharing it broader than a journal or broader than just in a classroom. And so, that's where I kind of land on that. But I know for folks like you, UCLA, like PhD, you are published in every single way that needs to be, for a scholar of your caliber. And so like, I just hope to aim to get there one day.
Yeah. So a couple things you said, and thank you. That was nice for you to say, but a couple things you said. One, I'm still becoming, right? Like I don't think there's an end to this. There's not, until you die, perhaps, right? When when it's over, it's over. But before that, I think this work is always evolving. And I always say, like, when I became a school counselor, I had a whole class on emo kids, right? How to relate to emo kids and how to find an emo kid and identify them, and then how to meet their needs. Well, today there are no emo kids, right? Like they went from goth to blah blah blah. I don't even know. There's iterations of emo, I'm sure, somewhere, but
Right.
that's not relevant anymore. So the work continues to change because culture continues to change, right? We continue to shift and grow and evolve. And so I don't think I'm ever an expert in anything other than making mistakes. I mean, we all make a lot of mistakes, but I think I'm expert in that. And I don't mind making mistakes. But I have not arrived. I'm still becoming just like you. And I think too, the scholarship that is most of consequence is that reaches folks, right? So what does Erica Badu say? What good do your words do if they don't understand you, right? So why would I always be writing for an audience that can't get to my grandmother, right? Like my grandmother's not going to pick up a journal and read it necessarily. If I give it to her to read, probably, but she's not out here seeking that information, right? So how can I make sure that my grandmother is my work is accessible for her, but also accessible to young folks who I can't do TikTok, but who might be on TikTok, right? Like, yeah,
Right.
I have an account, but I don't even know why. So it's that.
Same.
Yeah, it moves a little too quick for me. But maybe they'll see it on Instagram, or maybe they'll see it on Twitter. I think your scholarship reaches the people that it's supposed to reach, and that's what a good scholar is: one who actually can speak to the community that they're writing about, worrying about, losing sleep over. If they can to reach that community with their findings and their learnings, then that's the dopeness of being the best scholar. So in that way, I'm also way short, right? Like I don't even know how to do a Facebook Live from Zoom. I am a Zoom queen, but to get to live from I don't know. Probably need to upgrade. I'm pretty sure it's not in my package. I think
we got you. We got you. And so first, let me, Dr. Rema, people, okay, make sure that you are asking all your questions in the chat. I see Stan Johnson is already in, loving the work. He's saying thank you for bringing us to your space. Like, yes, like we got 4 folks, I believe, that's already watching this thing live. And I want to also say, like, this is a space that's curated for you, for you to talk with folks who have inspired me, has worked with me, who's seen the magic that I can possess. And Dr. Rema is one of those people. When I talk about becoming an author, becoming a scholar, becoming a professor, you play a critical role in every single step. And so I couldn't do anything but show you nothing but love and appreciation, and open you up to this amazing community, and saying, like, for real, this community, like, is a community that really needs folks like you, right? That needs to hear from folks like you. And so on my grandma's birthday, right, we are opening up, with Dr. Rema. And so Jill Griffin, thank you so much. Please ask any questions. And so Dr. Rema, what's on your heart as we talk about women's history? Open this world up to what we need to know about women's history.
Yeah, so happy Women's History Month. And, we just came off of Black History Month, which I was opening all my emails with, happy Black History Month, just to put it on the forefront of people's minds. But, I honestly think that this month and last month are unnecessary.
Oh no, because this is I know the critical thought process is that it needs to be every month, every day,
well, I just don't see. Okay, so let me take it back. I think it's necessary only because it is necessary, and that it's necessary is the problem, right? That if you start off the history of the United States without Black people, how are you starting the history of the United States? You're not. Right? Like we've been there from the beginning. So how Sway? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. If you're talking about history, you are talking about Black people, particularly in the United States. We've been at every single event. If you're talking about history, you have to start with the Black woman. Like, what are you doing?
Ooh, say it.
Why would we have to have a pop-out history month for us? Wouldn't even be us without us. So why are we having a pop out? Y'all should have a pop out. have a male history month. Y'all the second thought, honestly. So that we have to have some kind of special month is really outrageous, honestly. Like, you can't. How do you talk about anything without us?
I mean, that's true. Right? Like, without women, without Black women, we doing the good work doesn't exist without Black women. Let's just be honest. Who
we start with? We start with grandma.
Start with grandma. You know, grandma and the legacy builder, right? Like she was able to house 5 generations in her home. And I don't remember my grandma ever having a job. Right? Like
But
ever.
what she do? Make them ends meet.
You did, right?
Everybody full, lights still on.
That mac and cheese was still lit. Okay.
Slaps. It still slaps.
And she could feed 35 people. And
out here doing the work of Jesus. You hear me? do you see?
Yeah.
Fishes and loaves, man. She making it stretch, right? Bend, right? And expand in the stomach. She's doing the work of Jesus, miracle workers.
Absolutely.
But we're gonna have a pop-out month for us. We don't need to be highlighted. We are it. Sure. Great. Happy History Month. Sure.
This is what I get all the time. This is how it's been for me and my experiences with Dr. Rema since 2017. I am not joking. And I love it because we need to be thinking more critically about what we are really trying to say in the times that these celebrations are not existing, right? I think that is true. You know, like I can't just be my wife is amazing, but if I just celebrate her on her birthday,
good luck. It ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work out. I met your wife. She got high standards. I don't think that's gonna work out.
You know my wife, right?
Yeah, keep a happy home. You gonna have one day?
It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. And so
1 month. 1 month is wholly inadequate. Inadequate. I mean, sure. That y'all want to have your little funky month, go ahead. But I'm saying that the whole curriculum, particularly for K-12, which I always say that everything that we do is because of what we've decided to do in schools, right? So what we're doing currently is a direct result of what we've done in K-12 spaces. And so if we have to have a Women's History Month, it's because we have not done what we were supposed to do in K-12 spaces. And telling the story with the counter narrative. And so it shouldn't even be a counter narrative, it should be the narrative.
Right.
Minoritized folks, women have always been a part of the narrative. So it shouldn't even be a counter. If we didn't have a dominant, we wouldn't have to, we wouldn't be talking about this counter storytelling. But either way, if we revamp, rethink, dismantle, start over, bomb it, K-12 programming, we'd have different results where we wouldn't need these months that are specialized for people who have been integral to the history of our country, and for Black women, the history of all civilization.
It's sad, because we don't have a set, we haven't agreed upon what celebrating any minoritized groups really looks like in schools. Nobody has agreed upon that across states, across counties, across cities. Like you got some schools who are like, oh, well, February starts and it's like, Happy Chinese New Year. Right? And when I walk up to the school, I see nothing but Black kids walking in. Or a whole bunch of Black kids walking in. Right.
I was talking to a group of educators last week and they changed Black History Month to Diversity Month.
But why?
Why?
That's the problem that y'all already got yourself in the first place. It's you too generic. Right?
But the anti-Blackness of it all, right? It's the anti-Blackness of it. I don't really dwell on, racism. I really want to get to the root of racism, which is anti-Black racism. It's anti-Blackness that is really what we're seeing in our curricular designs, in our staffing choices, right? Who we teach, what we teach, and how we teach it is rooted in anti-Black racism, right? So if you have to have a Black History Month, that's too much. Let's just, water it down, spread it out. It's the All Lives Matter situation, right? Because we just cannot focus on Black folks. I do a work with Dr. J, who's on this call. I think Dr. Griffin is Dr. J. African American Student Initiative is the work she does for MDE, and she just brings phenomenal, heavy hitters here to talk about Black kids. Do you know how many times we have to redirect people back to Black. They done signed up for the African American Student Initiative. That's what the title of it is. The title says it.
Yep.
Well, how come we're not talking about? We're not. We're talking about Black people, but it's so uncomfortable because anti-Black racism is really the root of all white supremacy, right? It's the root of all whiteness. And so when people are uncomfortable with the challenge to their privilege, it always goes back to Black. So we have to sit in the discomfort of talking about only Black folks for most of the professional development, like just to get them to, around the fact that no, we're centering Black people. Like this is what's happening right now.
And let's even dive deeper, right? Because I think when folks are talking about, oh, well, this racist incident happened on campus or this racist incident happened on school, most likely it's an anti-Black racist incident, right? This racist incident happened and it made national news. No, anti-Black racist incident, specifically targeting Black students, right? Black people,
Black faculty,
it has specific. It's not like, and I'm not talking. I don't want to be like a pinning races against each other type person at all. But the reality of it is, when a Native American racist incident happens, they're giving them a platform, right?
Well, we saw it in real time.
Biden,
when Asian Americans were being targeted, he went up, right? We got all kinds of communication from our university. When Black people have been slaughtered for centuries, right? And as long as I've been alive, they've been slaughtered. We've been killed at will. There was still the hesitancy. Wait a minute. We had how many murders in 2020? So 2019, I get these mixed up because of COVID. At 2019, how many murders do we have? Back to back, all in the summer. And they still were reluctant to say, yes, these Black people are getting murdered in the street, in their homes,
still,
while they're sleeping, right? Like we saw that in real time. There was a quick, like, let me hurry up and say something about the Asian folks. Like, let's hurry up. And if there was a reluctance, and I think about this in terms of Black Lives Mattering, for example, in terms of the schools, K-12, that's what I generally go back to. So during COVID, we saw, right, I think it was March 9th, we were like, yeah, so we can't go to school anymore. Lives are at stake, right? COVID is out here. It's a plague. It's a pestilence. It's eating up everybody. We got to stop everything. And March 9th on a Friday, we were in school. March 11th on a Monday, we were not.
Mm-hmm.
Overnight, we changed the whole thing. We dispatched Chromebooks and laptops and fed people at home and did all those things.
Oh yeah.
Overnight. We changed all of schooling overnight. So then when we talk about Black folks dying on the vine, that what we do is a matter of life and death for Black children, and that their life outcomes are severely and deleteriously affected by what we're doing in schools. We say, well, no, let's make incremental change.
Wait.
Let's go slow.
Deleteriously? Okay, good. Give me, wait.
You said wait.
Deleteriously?
Deleteriously. Yes, it detrimentally, devastatingly, like fucked up. I mean, it's really terrible. I don't know how. It's really, really, really bad, right? And so, if we know that what we're doing, these choices that we're making in K-12 schools are negatively influencing or impacting Black children, and we say we got to go slow, but we just saw that you didn't have to go slow. Over a weekend, you changed everything to save lives. Then really, do Black lives matter? If we're saying we have a death of finances, a death of opportunity, a death of joy, right? Death of family, based on what happens in schools. And even in Chicago, we had literal deaths, like lives being taken on their way to school as we closed community schools and the charter system had a big enterprise, right? And so then kids were having to go across neighborhoods and on their way to school being killed, right? Across neighborhoods, just trying to go to school. We're saying that it's a matter of life and death what we do in schools, and Black children are dying, spirit murder. Bettina Love talks about this. Even their spirits are being killed. And we say, no. We got to go slow. You can't expect everything to change overnight. People have to be slow walked into this change. But we did it over a weekend to save everybody else's lives.
I'm gonna go to the chat, right? Because Stan is lit in here, right? I ain't gonna lie, Stan is lit. I love it.
Dr. Johnson and I went to UCLA together, and he's our brother.
Dr. Johnson, hey, I
Dr.
appreciate
Johnson.
you. I appreciate you, Dr. Johnson. I want to recognize what you're saying. First, we got Lynn, we got Bia. Thank you for being here. Candace, thank you so much for being here. Dr. Johnson says, and the irony in complicit racism was even more on display when they quickly passed anti-Asian hate legislation when Black people and non-dominant groups have been telling America about the hate/murder, and we as Black people have experienced for centuries. We get it. He get it. Doc.
And the power is in the policy. So, okay, let's go back to Black History Month. Great. We have this policy. We're gonna celebrate Black people in the shortest month of the year, the coldest month of the year, where we can't even do a barbecue. Fine.
They gave us Juneteenth, right? They said,
well,
they finally
reluctantly.
We had to take it.
Reluctantly. We got Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, we got Juneteenth, and we got the coldest month of the year, February 28th.
You know they just gonna try to give us another day. That's all they're gonna do.
How about I don't want it? How about I don't want it? I don't even want Juneteenth. Like, thank you, but no thank you. This is not for you. Like, you don't get to sanction this.
True.
Why are you blessing it? Who are you? This is ours. Like, you thanks, but no thanks. Keep your little Juneteenth. I can't be placated with these small little enhancements. We need systemic dismantling in order for me to be satisfied. We need March 9th through 11th in order for me to be satisfied.
But what do we start? Where do folks even start? Because that's what folks is really gonna be asking. You know, at the end of the day, is like, all right, like if we dismantling, then what? Like, are we starting with our accreditors? Are we starting with our district? Are we starting with our right? Like that, because that's the reality of the situation, is that these organizations are responsible to people who don't care, right? About
there's 11 proposals people have made for Black people. There's been reparations that have been talked about longer than I've been alive, right? They don't want to do it. There's another remedy, which would be to cancel out student debt.
They don't want to do it.
Well, let's think about that just really quickly. Because I always want to make sure I say this. Black women are the most educated subgroup minority in the United States. We're the most educated. Black women have more education than anybody else. We also have the most student debt. I mean, debt to income ratio, the highest debt to income ratio in for everybody. We are the lowest paid out of every other, the least respected, as Dr. Malcolm X would say. And we also then have generational poverty issues, even though we're the most educated. Mm-hmm. And so I think about this in terms of student debt, right? Because we're paying for this education mostly, yep. Right? We're purchasing this education. How then has education helped us?
Right, by believing in them. that's
it's a Ponzi scheme at best, but also it's a fairy tale, right? Like it's not. And my mother, God bless my mother. She passed in 2019. The only reason why I have a PhD is because she drilled it, right? Rema, education is the way to freedom. The liberation that you want is through education. The key to success is education. Get your education. They can never take it away from you. Sure. But they also don't have to give you anything for it. They don't have to give you a job. They don't have to give you a promotion.
They don't
have to give you a break.
They don't guarantee you nothing.
So we out here educated and broke for what? Right? Like this is not the goal. This ain't the goal. So I even in my last couple of probably the last 5 years, I've been rethinking even, college going, go to college. We need college access. I'm rethinking all of this. Like,
Mm.
are we now still in bondage because we've been sold the American dream of college, right? We're now still sharecropping because we have to pay off this debt.
Yeah.
Like literally, where is the liberation?
We sharecropping to pay off college student loan debt. I don't think Black people understand that. Like, I think we should be having conversations about reparations all the time with everybody. And if they're not talking reparations, then why they represent us? And just my personal opinion, like I'm always questioning, like, why am I in debt? Why am I in debt? Like, I did everything that I was supposed to do to get myself out of the situation, to be an active citizen, a socially responsible citizen in this country. With all the barriers that was on my life, why am I in the same amount of debt as some of these people who didn't have none of these barriers, right?
Number one.
And I think, especially in the richest country in the world, where we just printed out the most money we ever printed out ever in 2 years, because we wanted to make sure that GM and Ford and Chrysler still was running. We want to make sure Amazon got the tax-free opportunities across the globe, right? Like, we wanted to make sure that folks still had opportunities to get Web3, Oculuses and stuff now, right? So the meta, so Facebook can blow up, right? We wanted to give everybody internet because, again, like, it was in a global pandemic, but we got to keep the economy going. But you can't get every Black person equity and stake in our own communities.
Nope. They don't want to. It's not the way, it's the will. It's the will. We've seen it. I mean, we've seen it over and over and over again that they have all these capabilities. Whenever someone says, particularly institutions, and especially in institutions of education, when they say we don't have the money, I always end it with "for that." Because they do have the money. They just don't have it for whatever, right?
No, they don't want to have the money for that.
They don't have it for that. Now they got it for something else. They ain't got it for that. And I've been told several times, like, well, you just focus too much on Black people. What if you expand it to include BIPOC? That's not what I said, though. I said Black.
I mean, we can have a Black, Indigenous, people of color conversation, but.
Well, I just look out at outcomes. I look at outcomes.
Yep.
If you look at our outcomes, we're losing. So who has the most triage that's necessary? High. So the focus is not misplaced. It's your moral responsibility to focus on the least served.
Because y'all did it, right? Let's just talk about the reality.
Y'all doing it.
Y'all did it. Like,
y'all doing it.
We don't even have to go back that far, right?
Y'all doing it.
Crack
today.
Gives 1 gram of crack got a person 100 years versus 100 grams of coke gets a person 1.
Well, let's just talk about that in terms of women, Black women in this debt, right? And we talked about, the death of family. That's part of it, right? The war on drugs is really a war on Black people. And they locked up. And guess who has the lowest intermarriage rate out of everybody in the whole world? We marry Black men. We have the lowest. We don't go out. We have the lowest intermarriage rate than anybody else on the planet. So we're loyal to Black men. Well, sometimes they ain't loyal to us, by the way. I just wanted to say but then also, there's this problem with access for Black men for the same opportunities that other men can provide for families. So then we end up sometimes being the financial stability within a home for different reasons, and then that adds to our debt, right? So there's an assault on Black women on every front. But going back to you, where you said, why are you in debt? For Black people and people of color, really, honestly, we go into helping professions.
Yep.
Right. Well, helping professions don't pay.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting advanced degrees to be helping, right? To
Social work,
uplifting,
education, right? Oh, yep.
And it's not paying off. It's not paying off. So even more so, those in helping professions should get their education for free, the credentials. I want to it's hard for me to say education, because education to me is liberation, right? The more you know, the freer you are. You can move around, make different decisions, the more you know. But I don't know that our institutions are meant to educate, honestly.
No, they're meant to credentialize, right? Like you said,
Yes.
yeah, they give you access to certain levels of opportunity, quote unquote. Doesn't guarantee you access, but it gives you the credentials to say I should be here. Now you still have to prove that, and that's based on the education and folks that you come from, right? Thankfully that I had a Dr. Rema in my life, right? Because a lot of folks don't have that, and
well,
and the credentialing is only to make you feel good about who you are, not
the
or
other
not
thing
you,
that
but them.
well, I was going to say the other thing that the credentialing does then is reify and reinforce their systems.
Yep.
So we don't get an education, which would be an analytic view of what's happening, right? A way for you to critique and analyze and think about what you're doing and why you're doing it, in the larger system within your actions, right? That you're working in with your actions. That would be education. What we do is teach you how to reproduce whatever that is, right? Which is the society that is normed on dominance and capitalism. So we're actually taught to reify and reinforce our own oppression,
or the oppression of people that look like us.
Yes,
absolutely.
I always say this. I got a PhD in oppression because and that's not always true. I mean, at UCLA there was a lot of disruption that was happening in those classrooms, but if you are in education, you are an oppressor. You can't get around it. This whole system is oppressive, and so if you're in it, working within it, then you are it, unless you're dismantling it, right? And so these credentials teach you how to uphold it, continue it, not to challenge it, not to rethink it, and certainly not to dismantle it or to change it. To make it more equitable.
Let's go to the chat. Is still on fire. Okay. Lynn said, yes, it's all systemic, right? W-2 systems were designed to keep us from wealth systems in this country. We have to change our mindset around what type of education we are seeking and for what purpose, and our goal and our personal mission and goal. Ooh, such important critiques, she said, must explore together across all communities. Absolutely. And we want to, I think Black people have shown across the history that we have worked with all groups on all issues.
That's one, right? We'll invite all kinds of people to the barbecue, but then also the other thing that we do is anytime you lift the lowest vote, all time, right? It brings up everyone. So anytime you do what's right for Black people, guess who benefits? Everybody else. So that achievement gap that we talk about is really a false concept, in that if Black people go up, white people still gonna go up, Asian people still gonna go up, because we're only gonna continue to lift everyone else. Whatever is good for Black people, everyone wins with it. So even if we keep saying, okay, we need to focus on other people, I think there always has to be a focus on anyone who's marginalized. If you do something for Black people, though, specifically, everyone else benefits. Everybody.
Absolutely.
Everyone improves their life conditions. So it won't
teach.
So you're not gonna lose. You're not gonna lose. You're not gonna lose with an emphasis on Black people. We just don't want it because of anti-Black racism. It's so uncomfortable. Well, we aren't just talk about Black people. Yeah, we are.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, the this is where I'm at a point, and I'm also kind of maturing in this because I was doing more research on like decolonization, you know, colonial times, like, you know, just especially we got these, you know, wars happening right
Yeah.
across the country. You know, white people are colonizers. That's what they do in a lot of ways. And the reality of it is like they look at enslavement as Black history when
No, it's
it's
not. That's white
white
history.
history,
It
right?
is.
And when if you can't acknowledge that, you're not ready to do anti-racism work, right? You're not ready. You don't even know who you are, right? You have no idea what your cultural heritage has collectively and individually contributed to anti-Black racism, right? You don't know. And then you want me to, or you want somebody like us to come in 2 hours and give you the answers or create space for you to get the answers, and then everybody's silent. Is because you haven't done no work.
Well, what answers could you really? I mean, so when people say this, it always makes me really pause. Well, what are the strategies? Well, we need techniques. Well, we don't have any tools. Lies. Y'all know what to do. You don't want to do it.
Mm.
You know what it would take for Black children to be successful in your schools. You don't want to do those things.
Because what though? Why? But give me the thoughts as to why, and then the chat is lit. So Dr. Johnson said, teach. Lynn said, yes, I agree. We rise by lifting others. Dr. Bia said, true.
I think part of the resistance is what you said, right? It's a grappling with the fact that white is not innocent, right? That whiteness is not guilt free,
It's not
and
pure.
that
It's not as pure as it's been. Ooh, okay, keep going. Sorry, I
that's
apologize.
hard to do. I mean, if you we've been taught that, right? God is white. Everybody good is white. The angels are white. You know, the cutest animals
Santa,
are white. Everybody's
Tooth
white.
Fairy.
Yeah, everybody's white. Yeah, Santa, like all these people are white. And so anything good is white. If that gets troubled some kind of way, then you taking is it the red pill? You taking the red pill. And you're thinking, what is this? The matrix is completely, it's crumbling before me. And that's I'm not saying that's for just white people. I'm saying that's for everybody because white supremacy is it's that pervasive and powerful and potent that all of us participate within it, including me, and especially me because I'm an educator, right? So I'm reproducing it too. And so I can't get away from that. And we could talk about that another time. But either way, having to think that, wait a minute, everything that I thought is wrong, that's hard. Wait a minute. I thought I was jamming. I'm out here raggedy. That's difficult. No, I'm good, clean, and wholesome. I'm a great educator. Like I'm sacrificing my life for the children. You're harming them. Right? That's difficult to come to grips with. But to get to the remedy, you have to then acknowledge how you're complicit in oppression. So that first step is very difficult for people to take. The second step of then righting wrongs means that then people in power have to lose some of the power. They have to share it. And let me take that back. They don't have to lose it. They do have to share it. I don't know that you lose power when you share it, but that's what they think. We're losing power if we're sharing power. When really then if you share power, you're more powerful.
If how we've conceptualized it is definitely positional hierarchical, right? Like,
Yeah.
absolutely, right? Whereas what we know is that some of the greatest leaders lead from the back, right? They know how to influence the people, and then that influences policies, and that they are a threat to the position or the people in power.
I was just reading this book. Let me think of the title. I will, but he said real leaders don't have to sit at the head of the table. The table actually shifts towards them. The power
One more time.
is
Say
with
that one
you.
more time.
So if you walk in your power, you don't have to have positional power, right? You don't have to have a title. Wherever you sit at the table, you don't have to sit at the head because wherever you sit at the table shifts to you, right? So you can sit in the middle, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where you sit. People people don't recognize their own personal power, and so they want these titles. I see it all the time in these spaces where I'm on boards. It means something that you're the chair. It means something that you're in charge of this committee. It don't mean nothing.
Not to me.
Not to me, because just you have the position doesn't mean that people are even going to go to you if they need help.
It
You
doesn't
might
mean
not be
you're a
the
great leader.
lever. You might not have the lever to pull.
You might not have a soul that you can pull on, right?
Well,
You might not have a single inkling of ability to inspire and generate change.
inspire, generate change. So what I've learned, because I've studied leadership, I've taught leadership in 7 different countries. I think about global leadership, but I also think about like micro level leadership. But what I know to be true about leadership is that it's more a Western idea. It's more management.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what leadership is. It's really managing people. It's not leading people.
Right,
There is no compliance, control, regulation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fear, even, right? Coercion, right? They want you to capitulate to the demands that they have that somebody else gave them, because they can't even think of their own vision.
Ooh.
Leadership in the United States is mostly high level management.
Ooh. And then, so therefore, when you add on these other layers of complex social issues, you're not leading.
Well, that's why they want a toolkit. That's why they want a strategy, right? Because they want to be able to check. I did it. I did this, I did that, and it still didn't work. It's these people, it's not me, right? But if you're a real leader, you know that you have, whatever you go into, a culture responsive leader will go into a space and know that this space wasn't like the last space.
Right.
So what I did in that space won't work here. These people need this. They didn't need it over here, right? That's what leadership does, though. And there is no checklist. And people, when they say, well, I want to do right by Black children, give me the technique, give me the toolkit, give me a checklist. What happens in Saginaw is not going to be effective in Benton Harbor. It's not going to be the same in Kalamazoo. Won't work in Detroit. Like, we're not a monolith, right? So, but that's what we want. We want to manage. We don't want to lead.
Right.
I don't know too many leaders. What made me think of that is when you said inspire. Who's inspiring? Who out here inspiring people?
Well, and that's a part of why I say, like, folks are like, all right, Dar, you're gonna graduate, yeah, you're gonna try to become an assistant professor and all that stuff. And I'm just like, that's more systematic oppression for me, because I have to then hit these checkpoints when I'm more liberated in this role where I can do this stuff and nobody even question my responsibility or my accountability to the institution, because I'm doing what I was supposed to do, right? Like, I don't need to be an associate professor. I don't need to be assistant professor to do what I'm doing, because I worked my butt off to get to this point, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm chill.
Well, and I also noticed this too within whiteness is mediocrity. And so why would you subject yourself to the evaluation of people who are not as dope?
Who don't care about the people who I'm really trying to impact, right?
And aren't as dope. Like, they're not.
Thank you.
It's very difficult for it. Why would you subject yourself to people who don't have the same objectives or intended goals, also are not like-minded, won't even get what you're trying to do, but then also have as a goal mediocrity, right? Which is conformity. Conformity is always going to be mediocre. And so if that's what we want in institutions, why would you subject yourself to that when we're way doper? So I think it's hard for real dope people to then, go down. And I say that, like, subject yourself to low level, mediocre spaces.
I appreciate, and I with all kindness, right? And, getting rid of all imposter syndrome and accepting that compliment, right? Because the reality of the situation is I see myself educating people 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years from now, right? I see that. And that is not going to be always in the classroom. If you're going to, like, that's the privilege, right? Is that we isolate who can get access to these certain information, certain people. And then as we promote them up the ladder, what we are doing is really isolating them more from the people who can benefit the most from them, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
I don't want to be
And the
that.
cold part is those people who then get isolated also think that they're special.
Start drinking the Kool-Aid.
And then they become colossal oppressors, right? Like super oppressors, like super gremlins. They're like super oppressors. Like they go ham in trying to be the reproducer of a really crooked system. So the reward even then is a soullessness or a lack of humanity,
Yep.
right? The reward is. And so even for the individual, it's a price you pay when you're seeking the approval of institutions and not trying to do good work. And I think that's what you're doing, right? Good work. Like you're saying, I don't want to be confined. I don't want to be constricted. I don't want to have to self-edit in order to fit a model or a mode that people who are committed to oppression and mediocrity want me to fit, right? I'm gonna reject it. I'm gonna not do that, and I'm gonna give my work to the people. And that's what you do, right? You know how to do Zoom and go live, right? Because you because you give your stuff to the people. This is what you're supposed to do, right? Like the
Right.
people who need it certainly don't always have the access. And so I commend you. And I want you to continue to do the good work that you're doing.
Oh
Continue
my
it.
goodness. Like, so Dr. Johnson, I appreciate you in the chat, right? He talked about the matrix of mediocrity, right? Which is, that's a book, that's a series, that's some sci-fi that we can, we can add to, what I'm saying, the Oscars or something. I want to say thank you to Lynn again, Dr. Bia, always. And I always want to thank you because I think I started this journey, right, with the idea that I didn't have to go the traditional route to be the person that I wanted to be, right? I had this vision that, most people in my PhD program go become directors, VPs, student affairs, superintendents. That's not my trajectory, right? And a part of that is having to accept that within myself, but then finding people who, there are people every space that will say you cannot do it. And as soon as you find one person that say you can, you need to stick by them. And that's why I am sticking by you, right? It's because lots of people in our program, right, had told me that I wasn't going to be here in this position, being a full-time lecturer, teaching leadership studies, get 100 students a year who are super impacted by the work that I do, not only in the classroom, but they also follow me on social media and they continue to show up in my webinars, lives, all that good stuff. That was my dream, right? That was my hope. That was my vision for myself. And now I see that education, just in the same ways that these people who are like, start a business, become a speaker, right? Like all that stuff. We can make the money that we see ourselves making because we are that skilled, right? We have to put ourselves in position. And that's what social media has done for my work, right? It's so that when people look for me, they know what to expect from me. This is who you get, right? If you want to see how I talk, look on YouTube. You want to see how I work with students, look on my social media, right? You will see it. And so I don't have to be a fake, right? I don't have to be a fraud. I don't have to feel the imposter syndrome because I put out enough work to let people know who I am before you even talk to me, right? And that's really one of the most important things.
So I kind of feel like the imposter syndrome is, again, why are you measuring yourself against mediocre people? Like wanting the approval and affirmation of folks who can't give it.
Right. They're not meant to lead you.
They're unqualified.
Unqualified? Unqualified. Okay, I'm gonna make sure we emphasize that.
They're unqualified. I just saw Benny Siegel and Charlemagne the God, where it was a clip, and Benny Siegel was saying to Charlemagne, like, "Sir, you do radio shows. Don't talk about me in my life. You have no clue what I do. You couldn't do it. Stick to your radio show." He said, "You're unqualified."
Whew.
He said, "Play with safe games. Don't play with me." That's what he said.
Hey, Beanie is one of the most honest, the
He said,
truest.
"Play with safe games. Don't play with me."
Woo.
And that's the mentality. You're not qualified, ma'am.
Yep.
You don't even know what I'm doing over here. You have no idea. So why are you speaking on it?
Ooh.
You can't evaluate what you don't know.
That makes me think about, like, Jay-Z said, my uncle said I couldn't sell 1 million records. I sold 1 million records like 1 million times, right? Unqualified people put their fears on you and stop you from becoming the person you was meant to be.
And it's
because you
all fear. It's all fear. It's all fear. Even this idea of positional power, hierarchical leadership, of white supremacy and anti-Black racism is all rooted in fear.
Absolutely.
All of it is in fear. If you're ever trying to get someone to conform and to comply, you're trying to control someone, it's out of fear. Because love always liberates, always uplifts, right? Always wants people to win, doesn't ever want to dominate, right? So all of it is anti-Black, but also it's anti-love. It's all anti-love. And I'm a student of love. Love is not lightweight, right? Like love is pretty. And it's theorized. Yeah. It can change your whole life if you're doing love correctly. I'm not talking about the kind of love that you say to your wife, which you should. You specifically also should say to your wife, "I love you I love you." That's great. But do you show up as love? Do you do love? I don't really care about what you say, honestly. I don't care. I mean, I like to hear "I love you." That's great, fine, whatever. I'm checking for your actions. That's what I'm really checking for. And really, anti-Black racism is rooted in anti-love, which is anti-God, which is as far from divinity as you can be.
This blessed me. Dr. Johnson, thank you so much. Dr. Johnson said they got a meeting to go to. That blessed me, right? That blessed me. So rooted in fear means that you're anti-love, right? You're anti-love means you are anti-God.
Yeah, God is love.
Wow.
God is love. And love and fear can't coexist. They're antithetical. They can't be in the same room together. So anytime you see fear, you know that person is not walking in love. And why would I take the opinion of anyone who does not love me? Why would I take their assessment? They're not qualified.
Wow. So we got 3 minutes. And I always want to give just last words to the guests who can talk to the folks. I mean, we got folks who are in the chat. I mean, we still got folks. We got 10 folks on here listening up. What do you want to leave folks with as we kind of wrap this thing?
I think our last sentiments are most important, right? True leadership. And you can look to several women of all colors who have been true leaders. Background, right? Not necessarily out front, but for every movement in the United States, especially, there's been women who are leading those movements. There are men in the front, but it's women who are leading them. So do your homework to look at the dopest Black women, women of color, white women who've done this work as your model, right? Because that work is often selfless, it's often tireless, and it's often agape, right? It's not seeking its own reward. The reward is the collective liberation of folks. So I would say in Women's History Month, if we're gonna confine ourselves to a pop-out month, just commit yourself to finding one woman who has been a change maker and think about ways that you could pattern your life after her, right? That would be my one thought. My second thought is to walk in leadership. Like true leadership means that you walk in your power, and that in your power you're trying to share the power with other folks, and that collectively we win, right? Leadership is not about you winning, it's about the people who are around you winning for effective change. And then lastly, I would say to know who you are, whose you are. And if you are love, then be that in all forms. Doesn't mean you have to like people, doesn't mean that you have to kick it with them, but you do have to love them, right? Like love lifts, it transforms, it stores up, it bolsters, it edifies. And so when you find yourself shrinking into fear, know that your mission here on life in life is to walk in love.
Mm. Dr.
Period.
King's
And
work on love is good.
And start with loving yourself first.
Mm.
Completely.
Mm.
Love yourself first.
Dr. Rema, where can folks find you? Where can folks connect with you?
Oh, Father. So Facebook, sometimes I'll check my messenger. It doesn't come to my phone because I don't need that distraction. But if you do send me a message, within a week, I generally get it. And then I'm on all kinds of email. It's all over the place, but drrema.com, there's certainly a way for you to do a contact sheet just within that website, drrema.com. And Lucia said, what's up?
Oh, Lucius, what up? What up? Man, I tell Lucius I still want to get more time with him just to learn more about him. You know what I'm saying? He seemed like just one of the just strong Black man, right? Like, and I'm trying to figure this thing out, right? I ain't gonna lie, I'll figure some things, but I need more, right?
Well, there's another conference. Is the ICUE conference is coming up.
Is the proposals open right now?
Yes, it is.
Oh, you better believe I'll
forward you the email.
You remember how last one? Whoa.
Yeah. It was lit.
That last
Let's
day.
do that again.
Oh my God. Okay.
You had a great time.
All right, y'all. Hey, thank you so much, Dr. Rema. You stay on. I'm gonna end this live. It's been amazing. You'll see the replay, of course, on my Facebook, but also I'll have it up on YouTube as well. It's been a great one. Hey, everybody, keep doing the good work. Yeah. And to stop the stream and